I want to welcome you to my channel. And for those of you that are new here, I'm Larry Olson, and I'm a specialist in performance-driven neurology, which is simply a blending of cognitive psychology and neuroscience. And it's all about peak performance. So you high achievers and those of you who are driving towards success, those of you who just want to get more out of life or get to that next level, this education is just amazing on assisting you in getting there in half the time on the relative to the path that you're on now. I wanted to start out with what are some of the things that we should be avoiding even thinking about, let alone saying to ourselves. And the first one I want you to think about is ask yourself if you've ever said this. Well, I've heard that before. Some of you may have already said that when I said I'm a specialist in performance-driven neurology. Oh, I know a lot about performance-driven neurology. Yeah, I know. So what happens to the brain when we do that? Well, first off, you only listen because the brain is designed to make sure that you're getting information that's in alignment and congruent with what you already know, because that's where the opportunity for the brain to protect us is. Now, if it's not what we already know, and we're curious, which most of you are, you wouldn't be listening to this right now, we are interested in finding out more. But the moment you hear something and I go, Mary had a little, and you're all ready to fill it in, and then I go pork chop, you immediately are saying, no, it was lamb. Mary had a little lamb, not a pork chop. So if you really put that into perspective, I want you to think in terms of, is growth of interest to you? Is getting unstuck of interest to you? And we all know that if we keep doing what we're doing, expecting different results, we're not going to get anything unique. So in order to move beyond, I've heard this before, we have to recognize that, what is my brain doing? All right, well, I'm only listening to enough to affirm that I'm right, number one. I'm listening for discrepancies in what is being shared with me as to whether or not I agree or not. And then I'm also doing something that really stifles growth, and that is I continue to listen to myself. Now, don't misunderstand me. There's nothing wrong with listening to yourself, but what are you saying to the other individual while they're talking to you and you're listening to yourself? Well, after all, I've already heard it before. Exactly. And this is what's so interesting. Remember, who you are speaks so loud I can't hear what you're saying. You can tell when somebody is just listening to themselves and they're not listening to you, because the eye contact is gone, they maybe seem distracted, they may be looking away while you're talking. Now that's a good sign to stop talking. And I've done that before. As a leader, it's really impactful when you recognize that someone's not listening to you. Pause. And what'll happen is that pause will get the attention. Whether it's they looking at their watch or whether they look somewhere else, and you just might say, let me ask you a quick question. We're talking about what happens when we say, I've heard this before. Have you ever said that to yourself? Do you ever find that it keeps you distracted from really paying attention? Because what I'm doing now is I'm recognizing that it's a very automatic and it's a natural thing for us to get distracted. It's not somebody saying, oh, I don't think you're very interesting. But if we're not careful, we'll read that into it. And then we go ahead and we trigger the amygdala, which is the fight, flight, freeze mechanism. And we start to look for more evidence now as to whether they're paying attention or not. And we'll find it. Gee, yeah, I noticed they looked at their watch. Golly, they must not find this interesting, or they're not interesting. We're going to come up with one or the other. And if you want to empower others, if you want to really maximize the opportunity that you have in the relationships you're currently in, one of the most important things we can do is to recognize that instead of, I've heard that before, and stop listening and all the implications that occur when we do that, which I've just discussed. But rather than I've heard that before, when I find that someone's sharing something that I've already heard, I ask myself, what can I learn from this? What is it that they're sharing with me that I don't already know? And you know what I'll do? A key question in order to make sure that I am allowing them to even go beyond what they're sharing is, you talked a little bit about how your last trip to Florida, you did some deep sea fishing. Do you mind sharing with me a little more about where exactly did you go and what kind of gear did you use? And now what you're doing is you're changing up the conversation to the point where now I'm going to hear things I haven't heard before, plus you're keeping in alignment with what's of interest to them. Because they wouldn't be sharing with you if it wasn't of interest to them. And the challenge sometimes we face is, well, quite frankly, I'm not interested in deep sea fishing. I'm not interested in the fact that you just came back from a big business retreat and have all these amazing ideas now that are going to help us grow and get better. So if we back up a little bit, we want to recognize, what are we attempting to accomplish when we're listening to someone to begin with? Well, first off, we want them to recognize we find their information of value. And why? Because we have respect for them. They're another human being, another miraculous entity with over 100 billion neurons. They're more alike us than different, and we're looking for those commonalities because that's what connects us. And connection creates engagement, and engagement creates reciprocity. Because now these people want to listen to us. And I'm not doing it to get them to listen to me because that's manipulative. But remember, when you say, I've heard that before, just recognize you just changed the channel. Now the person's still talking, but you're not listening. And you know as well as I do that that's not the kind of message that we want to make if we attempt to continue to grow and develop in this miraculous thing called life. And remember, the only opportunity we have to do that is when? Exactly. There is no other time. So ask yourself, how much of what I shared did you pick up? Where do you think you could use it again? Because I guarantee you that what I'm sharing with you will get you to where you want to be in a much shorter period of time than the route you're on now. Or are you saying, I've already heard that before? It's up to you. And it's just a matter of choice. And you know what? When I have the opportunity, I choose to grow. How about you? And those of you high achievers, those of you that are attempting to grow beyond where you currently are and are looking for more success, I encourage you to leave a heart below. And what you'll find is a link to our Brain Hack series. And Brain Hack is simply taking over 40 years of my own experience and research combined with the last couple thousands of years of insights to be able to utilize something immediately that causes immediate results. I know you'll enjoy it.